I thought my dog had lost his mind when he started dragging my baby's blanket out to the porch every afternoon. But when I followed him one day, I realized he wasn't trying to play. He was trying to protect my child from something slithering just beyond my sight. Jasper's behavior didn't shift overnight. It crept in gradually, like a shadow stretching across the floor at sunset. At first, I thought he was merely restless. He'd pace the hallway outside the nursery, nails ticking against the old wooden planks, nose twitching as if he caught a scent no one else could detect. But within days, that restlessness bloomed into full-blown panic. Whenever I laid the baby down to nap, Jasper would shove his nose into the crib and whine. He never took his eyes off the blanket tucked around my son. The moment I stepped away, Jasper would leap up and pull the edge of the fabric with his teeth, dragging it across the nursery floor. At first, I scolded him, thinking he was acting out or begging for attention. But each time I wrestled the blanket away and set it back in place, he would stare at me with a look that hollowed out my chest, an unspoken plea. Soon, the barking began. Short, guttural bursts that shattered the quiet, as if he were sounding an alarm only he could understand. It was never random. Always the same time each afternoon, just when the late sunlight crept across the nursery window. He would plant himself between the crib and the door, growling low in his throat, fur bristling along his spine. He wouldn't budge, not even for food. I tried everything, comforting words, treats, even shutting him out of the room, but nothing worked. He would hurl his body against the door, claws raking at the frame, eyes wild with urgency. The longer it went on, the harder it became to convince myself this was merely canine anxiety. Jasper wasn't confused. He was terrified, and though I tried to deny it, a cold certainty was taking shape in my mind. There was something here. Something I couldn't see, but that Jasper could. An intruder, silent, patient, waiting. Some nights, when the baby shifted into sleep, I'd swear I felt it too. The feeling of being watched by something clever enough to stay hidden, yet brazen enough to never leave. I spent days convincing myself that Jasper was overreacting, that his instincts, so reliable until now, were simply misfiring. Some leftover anxiety from the move to the farmhouse, or maybe a phantom scent drifting in through the cracked windows. But that afternoon, when the heat pressed against the glass and cicadas droned their endless song, I decided I needed proof. Proof that nothing was out there. Proof that my dog was wrong. The baby was dozing in the crib, his breath soft and steady. Jasper was already there, jaws clamped around the corner of the blanket, trembling with such intensity one felt it in the floorboards. When I reached for the blanket, intending to tuck it back around my son, Jasper turned his eyes on me, wide, pleading, almost human. And in that moment, something inside me broke. If he was this afraid, didn't I owe it to him to look? Without a word, I gestured for Jasper to lead the way. He bolted down the hallway, dragging the blanket behind him. I followed, heart thumping, out to the screen door that creaked on its hinges and into the white glare of the afternoon. He stopped just beyond the porch steps, tail rigid, body crouched low. The tall grass along the fence line bent gently in the breeze, nothing more. But then movement. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a shimmer, a ripple, as though the ground itself had drawn a slow breath. But the ripple moved against the wind, parting the grass in a deliberate, gliding path. My stomach flipped. My rational mind tried to protest, to tell me it was just a garden snake, maybe a harmless black racer. But no garden snake moved like that. Heavy, slow, too large. The sun caught on something glossy and dark. Scales. Jasper dropped the blanket and pressed against my legs, growling so low I felt it in my bones. The thing in the grass paused, as if it knew we were watching. I couldn't see its eyes, but I felt them settle on me, curious and unafraid. And in that instant, I realized Jasper had never been trying to steal the blanket. He had been trying to get it. And my baby, far away from this creature after that afternoon, it was impossible to pretend everything was normal. I kept replaying the moment in my mind. The way the grass had parted, the gleam of those black scales sliding under the fence line, as if it were simply passing through territory already owned. My heart refused to believe it was only an animal. The presence I had felt watching us was too patient, too calculating. That night, I sat awake long after the baby had fallen asleep, listening to Jasper pacing the nursery. He no longer barked, no longer whined. He simply walked in a slow, restless circle around the crib, as if he understood that daylight was no longer the only danger. Each time his nails tapped across the floorboards, I felt my own resolve slipping. A part of me wanted to pack our things and leave, to drive away without looking back. But then I would glance at the baby, so small, so trusting, and think, maybe I was imagining everything. Maybe my fear was just exhaustion, and isolation twisted into paranoia. But Jasper knew, no matter how I tried to reason it away, his instincts never faltered. Every morning, he resumed his vigil at the nursery window. Every afternoon, he dragged the blanket to the door and waited for me to see the truth again. The more I watched him, the more I wondered if he could sense something deeper than any human I could perceive. The snake's visits grew bolder. Sometimes, when the baby stirred at dawn, I would look out into the yard and see the grass flattening under invisible weight. Once, I thought I glimpsed a silhouette ahead, rising just above the stalks, pause and study the house before sinking away. I began to feel like I was being tested, as though some unseen intelligence was watching to see whether I would believe the evidence or continue to hide behind denial. Each day, I felt the choice hardening into something irreversible. Trust my dog and act, or wait for whatever was in the grass to come closer. And in the quiet hours before dawn, with Jasper pressing my side and the baby breathing soft against my shoulder, I understood the terrible simplicity of it. If I didn't listen, if I failed to believe, there might not be another chance to save us sometimes. The ones who cannot speak our language see truths we refuse to acknowledge. Trusting their instincts can be the difference between safety and tragedy.